It's been over a year since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, and there are already a couple of movies about it. Not just documentaries, but actual narrative films where the COVID-19 pandemic is integral to the story. I thought it was something worth going over, since films like these might just be able to capture what this period in history was like for future generations. There are probably a lot more bad ones than good ones, but they're still worth discussing. So, let's look at 3 of those movies. And no, they won't be cheap schlock like Corona zombies.
Yes! Hit the mother load!
Easily the best movie of the 3, Borat's subsequent movie film is the sequel to the classic comedy known as Borat. It stars Sacha Baron Cohen as Borat and Maria Bakalova as Tudor, the daughter of Borat. I don't think I ever said Borat more times in a row than right now. Sacha Baron Cohen, as is evident by his work in this film and others, has a real gift for prank interviews and prank scenes involving unsuspecting bystanders.
Let me ask you, sir, you don't like this construction. Tell me about your dream mosque.
There is no dream mosque. We don't want a mosque.
He's able to play these outrageous characters and sort of provoke people into saying or doing some of the most outlandish shit imaginable. And it's fucking hilarious.
Oh, no. I didn't imply anybody here is racist. Of course not.
I am. I'm racist toward Muslims.
So this movie follows Borat going back to America after being forced by the Kazakhstan government to give Mike Pence his daughter as a bribe in order for the Kazakhstan premier to be friends with Donald Trump. So of course the film is very political. They began filming sometime in late 2019 in secret because of course Borat is such a famous character that he would instantly be recognized. So they put Cohen in numerous disguises and he's so talented that of course he's able to fool everyone. Then you have Maria Bakalova, who actually just got an Oscar nomination for this. She's able to commit and improvise in the prank scenes just as well as Cohen. I feel like a good chunk of actors wouldn't be able to do that. They would either get so uncomfortable that they would break for it to stop, or they would just burst out laughing. And considering the fact that she stayed in character while in an extremely uncomfortable and potentially dangerous situation with the man known as the oily hobgoblin, that's proof. That's proof of how good she is. Then when the pandemic started, they adapted and continued to film. Cohen lived with 2 conservative conspiracy theorists for 5 days, and he managed to sneak into a gun rally and sing a ridiculously offensive song that the audience just ate up. The movie's political angle works so well, and the addition of COVID, while unfortunate, it really helps drive that angle home. It also leads to this really funny twist, which I won't spoil. The rest of the movie is very, very funny, although I have my issues with some of the humor. A lot of it just comes off as dated. Did we really need that many anti-Semitic jokes? There's also sexist humor, but it at least has a point and it serves Tudar's character arc. Another scene that sticks out as dated involves menstrual blood. So yeah. And also, like other sequels, Borat 2 just isn't as fresh as the first one, but despite that, Borat 2 manages to do what Borat 1 did so well, and what Cohen overall is able to do so well, which is to make a bunch of people say and do the most ridiculously outlandish shit imaginable.
What should we do with scientists?
Let's hear it for freedom to the bears. Let's hear it for gas them up like the Germans.
Cohen announced that after this film he would retire from prank-style films, and it's fully understandable why when you realize the levels of danger he put himself through to make these kinds of films. Just at the gun rally scene alone, he had to wear a bulletproof vest, and he was actually almost attacked by one of them. So I'd say he gave a really great final prank performance as one of the most interesting comedy characters of all time. And overall, Borat's subsequent movie film is an enjoyably provocative experience that can easily be used to torture conservatives. Next we have Lockdown, which is a comedy that takes place during the first 2 weeks of quarantine in the UK, and it is about a couple in lockdown, of course, who have some relationship drama before deciding to pull off a diamond heist. Out of the 3 films, this is probably the one that features COVID the most, and in some ways it's probably the most relatable. There are a lot of Zoom meetings with celebrity cameos, a lot of drama, a couple of scenes which capture what that time was like, but I can't say this is a good movie in the end. And really just for pointers, the humor is boring, it's paced like a snail, and outside of the COVID bit, the plot isn't very interesting. The relationship drama is the core of the movie, and it tries to balance the drama with humor, but it just doesn't work. It comes off like the writer is trying too hard to force the humor in. Oh, Anne Hathaway does this boring monologue of how sad she is with her life, and then she does a silly scream dance. The heist part of the movie, which the marketing campaign focused on heavily for the trailers, is introduced very late into the film and is very drawn back and minuscule compared to other heist films. To some degree, I enjoyed that, but it also makes the entire heist feel tacked on, and in a way, it kind of ruins the movie. Like, imagine if The Kids Are Alright had the heist from Logan Lucky. Sticks out, doesn't it? If the movie was purely just a relationship comedy drama, I think I would have enjoyed it slightly more, but thinking that it was going to be a full-on heist movie, I was just stuck during scenes wondering, when are they gonna do the heist? This is pretty boring. Get to the interesting part. I don't know, maybe the writer wanted it to be just about the relationship, but then the studio was like, can you put something in there that would make people actually want to watch this? As far as compliments go, the movie looks competent, the acting isn't bad at all. I just think that the writing is very lackluster. That's all I really have to say about it. I wouldn't really worry about watching it again. But then again, I would gladly watch Lockdown again if it meant never watching Songbird again. Finally, we have Songbird, a movie produced by Michael Bay.
Fuck.
Not only is this the worst of the 3, but it's something that I would call a cinematic migraine. It is unpleasant and unentertaining in every aspect, and if you actually think about it, the experience just becomes worse. In the film, it is the year 2024. COVID-19 has mutated into COVID-23, and society has pretty much broken down. The main character, Nico, is immune to COVID, and then his virtual girlfriend has a COVID scare, so he races against time to save her from being put into a quarantine zone, which in the movie is basically the same as a concentration camp. Okay, so if you've seen some popular movies within the last 10 years, this movie will immediately remind you of the YA movies. Hunger Games, Maze Runner, whatever the hell. That's what I think the movie's trying to be. It's trying to be this romantic, politically thematic action movie that teenagers can find interesting. But the one thing from those movies that Songbird lacks, apart from competency, which we'll get into, is creativity. Sure, a lot of the YA novels aren't particularly original, but they still come up with stuff that's genuinely unique. Songbird doesn't have any of that. It's basically an amalgamation of plot details from a bunch of movies like The Purge or Dread or something or other. It's unbearably uncreative. All of the characters are dumb, the world doesn't feel fleshed out at all, and the whole story is just shallow. And then on top of the writing, the production is so poorly done. They released the movie in December 2020, but they started filming in July. You can tell that they put a rush on everything, like maybe 1 or 2 takes for every scene. Because of this, the cinematography looks ugly, the CGI is fake as hell, and all of the acting is bad. A good chunk of the actors are just there for a paycheck, so they don't care, and the ones who are actually trying are still bad because they're being rushed. At least I presume they're being rushed. I don't know, the movie's still shit, so I can't really tell. There's a review for Songbird from The Wrap that keeps coming to my mind. It's not inherently misguided to use a current tragedy as the jumping off point of a genre movie, but any filmmaker who decides to do so had better create something provocative or interesting, or at least competent to justify it. That review perfectly sums up the quality of this movie. It has no real worth outside of tackling COVID for its plot, which when you think about it, it did not need to do at all. It's not well made enough to be enjoyable, and it ends up just feeling irresponsible as a whole. It is shit that is worth nothing to anyone or anything. I do not think that I can sum up this movie in any other way. My God. So those are some recent movies that tackled the COVID-19 pandemic. Hopefully things will turn out alright in real life, maybe by mid-June.
What you have shown us and explained to us, we're sitting here like, what?
Yeah.